Well, good afternoon. It's not often that I talk about a lock for a winter storm, especially when the storm is still about 3 days out. So we're still about 72 hours out before the onslaught of this snow system over Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. But the conditions, the modeled guidance, the setup really looks fantastic for significant accumulating snow over the upper Midwest Friday into Saturday morning, and then the storm should get out of here Saturday afternoon. So anyway, again, I don't say a lock very often, but I'm feeling very confident about this storm system. Let's just take a look at some of the maps. First off, this is the snow totals from the Canadian model. And you can see that the Canadian model is gung-ho about snow over southern Minnesota and basically all of Wisconsin. I think the Canadian model is overdoing it a bit with these totals. In fact, probably overdoing it quite a bit. But still, look at these totals that it's cranking out: 18 inches, 16 inches, 15 inches, 14 inches. That's even here in the Twin Cities Metro and in the Rochester Metro, Eau Claire. So some very eye-popping numbers coming out from the Canadian model. And now let's just take a look at a couple of other models, make sure that we got a consensus. This is the GFS computer model. This is the American model. And you can see snow totals, again, this would be by noon Saturday. Very impressive on the GFS. Snow in excess of 10 inches over a good chunk of southern Minnesota. In the Twin Cities, it's got snow in the 6 to 10 inch range. And then, of course, that extends east into Wisconsin. And the bullseye of heavy snow on the GFS computer model would be northeast Iowa, southern Wisconsin, where 15, 16, even 18 inches of snow is being cranked out on the GFS computer. Now, the European computer model is the one that most of the time I trust the most, but it didn't perform, by the way, very good with the last storm, at least with snow totals. So they may be underplaying it. The Europeans may be underplaying it, but still a healthy snow over southern Minnesota with a bullseye basically from southwestern Minnesota east through the Twin Cities and then continuing east through Eau Claire and then into Wisconsin. And we'd be talking a 6 to 8 inch snowfall, even on the European computer model, which has been quite conservative with these storms as of late, at least with the amount of snowfall. Now, why am I so confident? Well, it has everything to do with the jet stream in our mid to upper level layers of our atmosphere. Right now, the jet stream is south of Minnesota. It's going to start to surge north a little bit. You can see it's a very strong jet stream, by the way. And by tomorrow, you can see that jet stream is ever so slowly surging towards the northeast. And as we get into Friday, this is very important. The right rear quad of the jet, which would be right about here, and the left front quad of a jet streak that's coming into the southwestern portion of the United States, these two areas, this bottom area of this jet streak here that's over the Great Lakes, and this nose of the jet that is starting to surge into the central portion of the United States, right in between here, this area that lacks strong winds is usually where intense lift occurs in the atmosphere, in the lower layers of our atmosphere, to compensate for the lack of winds in the upper layers of our atmosphere. Long story short, this area is a fantastic area for storms to develop, and not only that, but for a significant overrunning of air, which means if we get warm air that overruns cold air here in the upper Midwest, which it looks like that's going to happen because of this jet structure, we are going to get precipitation that's going to be wrung out of our atmosphere. And it could be quite a bit of precipitation. And you can see this is a great setup for Friday evening. And then as we head into Saturday, that setup moves much further east. In fact, it breaks down on Saturday evening, and then we're going to be left with just some very serious, bitter cold Arctic air that's going to surge into our area over the weekend. Another thing that's in our favor is the 700 millibar temperatures. And we look for 700 millibar temperatures that are in the -10 to -15 degrees Celsius area for the best location for dendrite growth, which is just basically another word for fat, fluffy snowflakes. And these would be snowflakes that accumulate rapidly when they fall to the ground. And on Saturday evening, you can see southern Minnesota. Here's the Twin Cities. Here's the Minnesota-Iowa border. You can see that minus 10 degrees Celsius at the Minnesota-Iowa border. And then as we go north, the minus 15 degrees Celsius isotherm is located right around the Twin Cities. So just judging by this, Friday evening, a great location for snow to develop in our atmosphere is going to be over the southern half of Minnesota, and it would be efficient snow that can accumulate rapidly. It would be dry, fluffy, and they would be your decent-sized flakes. So that's very important to know where that 700 millibar dendrite growth zone is located. And then, of course, as we go through time, this is late Friday night around midnight. That zone is still over Minnesota, southern Minnesota, and then it finally pushes away during the day on Saturday. So everything is setting up for a significant snow here in the upper Midwest and especially southern Minnesota for Friday into Saturday morning. One last map we're going to show you is the 850 millibar temperature map, just to make sure that the rain-snow line is going to stay south of Minnesota, and it certainly does. The rain-snow line is located over southern Iowa and then moves east into Illinois and in northern Illinois during the overnight hours of Friday into Saturday morning, keeping Minnesota, southern Minnesota, and Wisconsin firmly in the Arctic air, which means we will definitely have snow out of this system rather than having to worry about ice or rain-snow mixture. One last map I'm going to be showing you is the travel impact map. And this has just been updated, and you can see how my confidence is extremely high, especially when we're still 3 days out. But I'm very confident that a significant snow, and I'm talking probably snow in excess of 6 inches, and some amounts may even get to be over a foot of snow, will fall in this high-risk area, which basically stretches across the southern half of Minnesota and then east into the southern 2/3 of Wisconsin. So the Minneapolis-St. Paul Metro, Eau Claire, Rochester, Mankato, La Crosse, all of these areas are in this high risk for significant snowfall. This would be Friday, especially after noon on Friday, and then extending to about sunrise on Saturday. And then, of course, around that high area, you get a moderate risk area, which means this is going to be a big snowmaker for a large chunk of the upper Midwest. And it means that we need to be aware and to be prepared for significant snow Friday into Saturday.